Hi, I'm Jude from headfi.org. In preparation for this episode of Head-Fi TV, please place your carry-on luggage in the overhead bins or underneath the seat in front of you. But please keep your headphones on, because you're coming with me to Tokyo. Twice a year, popular Tokyo electronics dealer Fujiya-avic puts on an event called the Tokyo Headphone Festival, once in the spring, once in the fall. And ever since seeing coverage of the Tokyo Headphone Festival, I knew I one day had to go, and last fall I finally had my chance and I went, and it was absolutely amazing. But before we get into the Tokyo Headphone Festival, I wanted to first thank some headfiers, without whom the trip would have been a lot less productive and not nearly as fun. I want to start with Arnaud, who's a Frenchman, now living in Japan. Kurwang, whose real name is Amos, an Australian living in Japan, and he's also one of Head-Fi's administrators. Sasaki, who's from Japan and has a popular blog covering headphones, electronics, and other topics called Music to Go. He also has an English language blog right on Head-Fi called Sasaki from Japan. And also M. Kubota1, real name Mike. He's actually from California, but he regularly travels to Japan. Without these guys showing us what we needed to see and hear, and they really did make sure that we saw and heard everything we needed to see and hear. Like I said, the trip just wouldn't have been nearly as fun. I also want to thank my other travel companions, Connor Callahan, who goes by Connor Callahan on the forums, Drew Baird from Moon Audio, and Val Colton from V-Moda. All these guys, we had such a great time, and thanks to all of them. The guys and I were lucky to have time before the Tokyo Headphone Festival officially started to kick around the city of Tokyo for a long day of fun. M. Kubota1 had pre-planned most of our headphone sightseeing and sound hearing adventures, and Sasaki, again a Tokyo native and a very fast walker, served as our primary guide. We couldn't have got around without these guys. It was fantastic. Our first stop, Fujiya-avic, of course. Again, Fujiya-avic is the electronics dealer that organizes the Tokyo Headphone Festival. If, like me, you're a diehard headfier and you haven't seen Fujiya-avic before, let me tell you right now, the first sight of this store is breathtaking. It's located in an indoor shopping center, and when you first come up on it, the first thing you'll notice are its outward-facing display cases that essentially make up the walls around the store. In those display cases is mostly over-ear headphones of just about every make and model that we talk about on Head-Fi, and then there are some portable headphone amps, other portable audio gear, and other audio bits and pieces. It really is an amazing introduction to Fujiya-avic to see those display cases. Any avid headfier would be wide-eyed at the sight, and I definitely was. As impressive as the display cases are outside the store, they're really just an introduction to what you're about to see when you go into the store. And it's only when you go in the store that you truly understand the breadth of the gear available at Fujiya-avic. It is like everything we talk about on Head-Fi, all the gear that we dream about, talk about, and discuss on Head-Fi, but there in person for you to use, feel, hear, touch. From portable audio to desktop audio, disc spinners, DACs, portable amps, desktop amps, from entry level to the highest end, from full-size over-ears to in-ear monitors. Oh, and speaking of in-ear monitors, they had a really cool exhibit of custom in-ear monitors, the likes of which I hadn't seen in any store before, where they had Westone, Ultimate Ears, JH Audio, and then the guys at Fujiya-avic and Sasaki pointed me to one called the FitEar MH334. I had heard of FitEar before, but had never used anything from FitEar, because right now they currently pretty much only sell in Japan. But they introduced me to the FitEar MH334. It is a really high-end custom in-ear monitor, and I'm glad they did. We're going to get back to the FitEar MH334 when we get to the Tokyo Headphone Festival later on in this episode. Now, the guys who introduced me to the FitEar, the members of the Fujiya-avic team, Makoto Ishizone, Hidehiro Taniguchi, and the rest of the Fujiya-avic staff, they greeted us so warmly coming into the store. They made it such a great way to start off our trip. I want to thank them for their generosity, their hospitality. They even gave me this gift, a CD by Suara that's autographed, and it's actually a beautiful CD to listen to. So thank you so much for this, guys, and for welcoming us to Fujiya-avic. Again, just a great way. You made it such a great way for us to start our trip. After leaving Fujiya-avic, we headed for a very interesting store called GEM, spelled G-E-M. It's run by the lovely Hiroko Kuroki, and it's more like a gallery than a store. When you walk in, the first thing you notice are these glass tubes coming down from the ceiling, several of them. Inside of each glass tube, just at the very bottom of it, is one pair of custom art in-ear headphones. Those headphones are based on 9-wave in-ear headphones, And artists will custom cast pieces to it. I mean, they look like mini sculptures. They're beautiful, as you can see in the pictures. But these pictures do not do these headphones justice. They're just gorgeous to look at in person. They use exotic woods and skins, and again, custom cast art pieces. It's just a gorgeous piece, and they're all unique. And they're all quite expensive as well. They also had a wall of iPhone cases made of a traditional Japanese wood. I don't remember the name of the wood, but they use a traditional Japanese lacquering process to create what looked more like wall hangings and paintings than iPhone cases. Again, very, very beautiful and very expensive. Another cool feature of GEM is their dedicated listening room. They had a listening room with a custom-built station on either side of which was just one chair, so 2 total chairs. And this station had a flush-mounted Layman headphone amp and a really cool media player, the hardware and software for which I wasn't familiar, but it had a really cool user interface with dials and easy-to-use switches and dials. And you could use this unit to demo high-end headphones in this relatively quiet listening room, and that they dedicated so much space to just these 2 chairs and this rig for listening to high-end headphones was very cool. So GEM was a very unique spot. Thank you to them for also welcoming us into the store, because it was a relatively compact store and we took up the whole thing while we were there. Thanks again. Every gear, gadget, and toy enthusiast in Tokyo has to go to the Akihabara district. And since we all fit that bill, we went. Of course, there are some stores there that every headfier has to see anyway, but we had a great time in Akihabara. We started with some parts stores that sold parts for just about everything, from obsolete computers that I didn't know people would still want parts for, to, of course, audio gear and audio bits and pieces, which is what we were most interested in. Drew Baird of Moon Audio, of course, he likes to make things and tinker with things. We had to drag him kicking and screaming out of those parts places. He would have stayed in there for hours if we let him, but of course we didn't have the time. But it was pretty funny because, no, literally, we were dragging him out of those stores. But then we went and we saw the Oyaide location, their headquarters in Akihabara. Now, Oyaide makes some really cool connector products and cabling products, and a lot of Moon Audio products use Oyaide connectors, as do many other high-end cabling products. So it was really cool to see Oyaide right in the heart of Akihabara. When we weren't dragging Drew kicking and screaming from parts stores or stopping at toy stores to buy souvenirs for our kids, nephews, and nieces, we were, of course, in Akihabara at the audio stores. And there were definitely some memorable audio stores that every headfier in Tokyo should visit. We went into one called Dynamic Audio, and the coolest thing about being at Dynamic Audio for me was running into one of our fellow Head-Fi members, a guy who goes by Takoyaki on the forums. And we had a chance to chat about music and gear, and speaking about music, at Dynamic Audio they had a glass special edition CD of one of my favorite pianists, Martha Argerich, a glass CD, which I'd never used one before, and it was like $1,500, so I didn't buy it. But I had a chance to listen to it through Stax SR009s. And in addition to the Stax SR009s, which they had a pile of at Dynamic Audio, like Fujiya-avic, they had a lot of other gear by a lot of manufacturers, again, similar to Fujiya-avic, that we talk about on Head-Fi all the time. So Dynamic Audio was a really cool stop. Along with the very first sight of Fujiya-avic, one of the most memorable sights for me in this whole trip to Japan was the first sight of the inside of a store in Akihabara called e-earphone, because they had the most headphones per square foot of any place I've ever been to in the world, including my office. And if you've been to my office, you know that's saying something. It was an amazing first sight. Just rows of headphones. Not just one wall densely packed with headphones, several walls densely packed with headphones. So whether you were looking for a Beats headphone or a Stax SR009 or any other headphone model, it was probably there. You want a Beyer DT1350? Try 4, 5, 6 or more of them in a row on display for you to use. That's what it was like being an e-earphone. Portable audio, desktop audio, DACs, amps, you name it, they probably had it. So it was a lot like being at Dynamic Audio or Fujiya-avic. An amazing store, really. They even had a dedicated display, which I thought was really nice. I think they had a couple of Go-DAP 4 setups on this dedicated display. This is the new VentureCraft Go-DAP 4. It's an iDevice DAC and amp and charger, which is a really nice device. We might talk about it later, but it was nice to see a dedicated display just for the Go-DAP 4. That's the kind of store e-earphone was. It's run by a guy named Hironobu Oi, a really cool guy. He likes to go just by Boo. And in the photo you'll see now, that's Boo on the right, and that's Val from V-Moda on the left. We had a lot of fun there, a lot of interesting conversations. They also, several of the people there were familiar with Head-Fi. Actually, that was one of the coolest things about being in Japan was in the context of headphone audio was running into a lot of people familiar with Head-Fi. It was flattering and fun and cool to see that. So this is going to definitely be earphones, one of my first stops next time I'm in Tokyo for sure. We ended our Tokyo shopping day at another very memorable place and another very memorable site. It was Yodobashi Camera. It's probably the single biggest store maybe that I've ever been to. It's 8 stories of shopping and dining goodness. It was a remarkable department store. So first floor, I believe you could buy cell phones, cell phone accessories, and we're talking every floor on this store is humongous. And now imagine 7 gigantic floors of shopping and then a top floor of eating. Well, on one of the stories you could buy expensive wristwatches, souvenirs. I believe there was probably a cosmetics aisle or a floor or something. The clothing, you name it. Again, they probably had it at Yodobashi Camera and, of course, cameras. But you go to the 7th floor, and that's where you could find, among other things, high-end audio. And it was so strange to see a department store that you could buy a Stax SR009 in, that you could buy a Ray Samuels Audio Apache in, that you could buy ALO audio cables in, a head amp DAC, you name it, they probably had it. It was like the other stores. It was a less personal experience. We didn't really talk to the staff there. So it was a less personal experience than the smaller stores like e-earphone, Dynamic Audio, or Fujiya-avic. But it was still a cool experience in its own unique way. They even had a section called DAC, or DACs. I mean, think about this. It's a department store with a DAC section with a big sign to show you that this is the DAC section. So it was a really strange experience, but very cool. You'll see in this photo, that's M. Kubota 1 in what we call his happy place, surrounded by headphones, and they had these little listening areas. It was a really cool place, Yodobashi Camera. You have to visit it if you're in Akihabara in Tokyo. It's memorable and cool. After such a long day running around Tokyo, and it was, again, such a long day, morning to late at night, while we were in Yodobashi Camera, we had to head up to the 8th floor where the restaurants are, and we stopped and had sushi. The picture you're looking at now is the pile of plates that Drew from Moon Audio, that's him in the picture with our plates, Drew and I put away all the sushi that was on those plates, and we weren't even done when that photo was taken. But we had a great time. It was a great way to be with friends, to explore, have a Tokyo adventure, and prepare for the following day, the big day, the Tokyo Headphone Festival. So was the Tokyo Headphone Festival worth traveling halfway around the world for? Absolutely it was. I want to congratulate and give kudos to Ishizona-san and the rest of the Fujiya-avic team for putting on what had to be one of the best, if not the very best, headphone audio meets I've ever been to. It was absolutely worth the trip halfway across the world. Congratulations again to Fujiya-avic for doing this not just this one time, but twice a year, every year. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to some people and companies who were with us at both CanJam at Rocky Mountain Audio Fest in Denver, and then a couple weeks later in Tokyo for the Tokyo Headphone Festival. We had Drew Baird from Moon Audio, Uncle Wilson from Jabin, Ken Ball and JD from ALO Audio, Michael Goodman from Centrance, Hiroaki Kawahata and Kaz from Fostex, Val Colton and Gavin Luke from V-Moda. To go from Denver and turn around and head right out to Tokyo is pretty hardcore. Thanks for doing it, guys. Some of the longest lines at the Tokyo Headphone Festival could be found at the Fostex exhibit. A very popular company in Japan, they're now getting increasingly popular all over the world with some of their latest products. Well, their 2 latest products on the high-end side were what everybody at the Tokyo Headphone Festival wanted to hear, starting with this. This is the Fostex TH900. I still drool every time I look at it. It is probably the most beautiful headphone I've ever seen. The color that you see here is applied using a Japanese process, a traditional process. It's called urushi lacquer. And I really can't explain, and hopefully the pictures that you're looking at will show just how beautiful these cups are. And luckily it sounds as good as it looks. This is a beautiful sounding headphone. We'll be talking about it down the road. It is their flagship. It's a dynamic type headphone. It's going to retail for about $2,000. They were showing the Fostex TH900 with a new DAC and headphone amp combo product called the HPA8. It's a new flagship DAC from Fostex. It uses, I believe it's the AKM 4399 DAC chip. It decodes up to 24192, and it also does DSD. decoding. And that's also going to retail for about $2,000. I don't have one of those yet, but I'll be getting one real soon, and we'll talk about that too in the near future. But as you can see in the photo, it's another gorgeous piece of gear. Now, at the Tokyo Headphone Festival, that's really the only time I got a chance to hear the Fostex HPA8. And I did hear it with the TH900, but they were playing music that wasn't mine. So I can't really comment on how it sounds. It sounded really good, but I wasn't familiar with the music, and I don't like to comment on gear that I didn't listen to my own music through. But I am getting the HPA8 very soon. I already have the TH900. I'll pair them together and put my own music through it, and we'll talk about it down the road. In addition to their new flagship products, Fostex also showed this, the very popular Fostex HP-P1, the one on the bottom here. It's a portable iDevice DAC and portable amp all in one unit with a rechargeable battery. It's very popular on Head-Fi. It might even be more popular with our Tokyo contingent because I saw a lot of these at the meet. I'm not going to say much more about the HPP1 though because we shot a whole Head-Fi TV episode about it before, so look in our video archives for the episode about the Fostex HPP1. Fostex is also showing their HPA3 transportable USB DAC and amp combo. I say transportable because it doesn't have a built-in battery that you can recharge, but it is easy to carry because it's powered by USB bus power exclusively, and so you don't have to carry a power adapter for it. And I do carry this with me from time to time. It makes a great coffee house system. When I know I'm going to be working for a while and want to build a nice setup around me, I will carry this. It also finds use in my living room system or one of my living room systems because it has optical out, and I use the optical out to feed the optical in of the Sennheiser RS220 wireless headphones. It makes a nice combo. Since I don't yet have the Fostex HPA8 flagship DAC that I mentioned earlier, I have been using this with the Fostex TH900, and it's a nice combo. So that's the HPA3. I should also mention that the Fostex HPP1 also has optical out, and I find that to come in handy for a number of reasons. It's not a feature that I've found to be common on a lot of portable or transportable gear, so I thought I should mention it. Another very cool and very clever device being shown by Fostex at the Tokyo Headphone Festival was the AR4i. It is admittedly not very Head-Fi specific, but it is just so groovy that I had to show it to you. What is it? Let me show you. Here's an iPhone 4S. It also works with the iPhone 4. You dock it in the AR4i, and you've got a stable handheld video camera setup. The iPhone 4 and 4S take HD quality video, but the audio that it captures through its built-in mics, not so HD. With the AR4i, it comes with these two mics and a stereo array, and the audio quality then matches the video quality. It sounds great, and it has adjustable mic input as well. There's also a cold shoe, so you can mount video lights or a wireless mic receiver, and you can take off the included handle and put it down here instead. Move this mic over here, and you can do the stereo mic array even in the portrait orientation. These mount points also fit a standard tripod screw, so you can tripod mount your iPhone for video or still pictures as well. I love the AR4i. If you use your iPhone to shoot a lot of video, either home movies or for work, you really should pick up an AR4i. It's a very, very cool device. Another company at the Tokyo Headphone Festival that had products that impressed me, especially for the price, was Kingrex. Kingrex was showing this. This is a DAC, a USB DAC called the UD384. It decodes from USB up to 24,384. I have nothing in 24-bit 384 kilohertz. I can't even imagine what the file sizes would be, but it's very cool that it does that. I do have files at 24,192 and 2496, 2488, and 24,176, so this will come in handy. It's affordably priced at $499, and get this, it also does DSD. So I thought that was pretty cool. I have no DSD files either, but I'm going to look for some. So that's the UD384. They were also showing this combo, which was a pretty impressive headphone amp. That's an external power supply. This is the amp section. It's called the Headquarters. This was a really nice sounding amp for the money. And the price on these is $895. If you want a glossy chassis, it's $995. I haven't spent as much time with this as the UD384, but we'll be talking about this hopefully in another episode. Anyways, I was sitting at the Kingrex exhibit at the Tokyo Headphone Festival with Drew Baird from Moon Audio, so we were listening to him together, and immediately he said, I'm going to carry these. He is now the distributor. Moon Audio is the distributor in the US for the Kingrex line. So I thought that was pretty cool. He knew immediately after hearing him he wanted to pick him up. So Kingrex had some pretty impressive stuff to show. Earlier I mentioned that when I was at Fujiya-avic, that the guys at Fujiya-avic and Sasaki introduced me to a custom in-ear monitor that I wasn't previously familiar with. It was called the FitEar MH334, and I was so impressed by the Universal Fit demos that they had there at the store that the next day, because FitEar had an audiologist on location at the festival, I had to get fitted for my own custom versions of the MH334. I also had a chance to meet the founder of FitEar, Keita Tsuyama, and it was a fascinating conversation because he told me more about all of the products in the FitEar line. And then what was really nice was that he gave me a lot of background on their flagship, which I had just been fitted for, the MH334s. So the MH in the name, MH334, stands for Mitsuharu Harada, who's a legendary mastering engineer for Victor Creative Media. And though I'm not a mastering engineer, I can hear what Harada-san was intending when he voiced the MH334 as a mastering monitor. They're very, very resolving. And throughout the audible range, they're very resolving. But it's through the mid-range. The mid-range resolution is maybe second to none of all custom in-ear monitors I've heard, maybe of most of the headphones I've heard, period, regardless of type. Absolutely outstanding mid-range resolution. That's, in my opinion, its biggest strength. Also, the build quality of the MH334 is outstanding. Among the best of the custom in-ear monitors I've got, maybe the best. I'm hoping in the photo that you're looking at now, the build quality is evident. And if you're familiar with custom in-ear monitors, you'll probably be more able to tell. The main bodies are pretty much entirely bubble-free, which is hard to do in a custom in-ear monitor. But what I really like about these is the way the cable plug goes into the main monitor body. There's a preformed receiving section for the plug, and they fit together so tightly, so beautifully, that it looks almost seamless. So the cables are detachable, but when you look at them, you have to look close to see that the cables, there's actually a seam there and that they are detachable. They look like they're fixed. That's how nice the fit and finish is on these. By the way, I should mention that the MH334 is a three-way four-driver design, meaning that each ear has one bass driver, two mid drivers, and one high driver. And FitEar did a wonderful job integrating the sound of the four drivers to sound like one coherent unit. Absolutely fantastic job, as all of my favorite top-tier custom in-ear monitors do. So do I recommend FitEar's MH334? Unequivocally. Again, it's one of my favorite of the top-tier custom in-ear monitors, and it has to be considered in that class, easily in the class, of the best from JH Audio, Westone, Ultimate Ears. It's that good. There are a couple of caveats, though, that you have to consider. Number one is availability. Right now, I believe, unless this situation has changed, which I'm not aware of, but I believe it's still primarily a Japanese market product. You can order directly from Japan, I believe, anywhere in the world, but keep in mind that you're not going to be able to find it local to you unless you're in Tokyo, if you're in Japan. The other thing that you have to consider is the price. It is one of the most expensive, the custom in-ear monitors. It's 147,000 yen, which today translates to about $1,750. So again, it's definitely on the high side as far as price goes. But if that doesn't scare you completely away, if that's within your budget, if you're willing to consider that, and you're looking for a top-tier custom in-ear monitor, make sure that the FitEar MH334 is one of the candidates. And if you're not looking for a custom in-ear monitor, but instead are looking for a top-tier universal fit in-ear monitor, Sasaki just posted on Head-Fi recently that FitEar is going to be releasing something. I think it's called the FitEar MH334 to Go, which is essentially a universal fit version of the MH334. And from what he said, if I understood correctly, it should have performance similar to the custom version of the MH334, and I believe the price is going to be somewhat lower than the custom version of the MH334. If you can't tell, I'm really excited about FitEar. As I've mentioned, Val Colton, the founder of V-Moda, was one of the members of our Tokyo travel team. But V-Moda, the company, was also one of the exhibitors at the Tokyo Headphone Festival. Now, not surprisingly, given the popularity of earbuds and in-ear monitors in Japan, the V-Moda Vibratos were a pretty popular headphone being auditioned at the exhibit. But really, the two headphones that I saw being auditioned the most had to have been the V-Moda M80s. These are also very popular on Head-Fi. It's an on-ear, super-oral, closed headphone, and it looks really cool. Very audiophile-friendly sound signature. Really, it's a beautiful sounding headphone, and again, immensely popular on Head-Fi for those reasons. Another headphone that was getting a lot of play was the V-Moda Crossfade LP2. This is their newest full-size closed around-the-ear headphone, and if you've heard the crossfade, the first crossfade, this has a more controlled bass, more extended treble. It's really more balanced, but it's still a bass-heavy headphone. But when I'm looking for a bass-heavy headphone, which sometimes I want, especially when I'm going to be in a loud environment, this is a great choice, and I do use the Crossfade LP2 fairly regularly. So this was also a very popular headphone. The M80 and the LP2 were probably the two most listened to V-Moda headphones, from what I could tell, at the V-Moda exhibit. But anyways, again, it was great to see those guys there. While I'm talking about V-Moda, I wanted to share a funny little story that happened as we were leaving the Tokyo Headphone Festival. So it's the end of the day, we're leaving the Tokyo Headphone Festival, and Val had a pair of crossfades, the original crossfades, in white with these really cool custom red plates with, like, I think it was like a crocodile sort of embossed pattern on it. But as we're leaving, he sees one of the headphone girls. Now, the headphone girls, to give you an idea of how popular headphone culture is in Japan, there's a group of models, female models, that wear headphones and get their pictures taken. They're called the Headphone Girls. They played a prominent role in the promotion of the Tokyo Headphone Festival, which I thought was fantastic. But anyways, as we're leaving, Val just hands this white and red crossfade LP to one of the models and tells her it's for her. And she was elated, jumping up and down. She couldn't believe that the founder of V-Moda just gave her a pair of crossfade LPs. So anyways, fast forward 2 months after the show or thereabouts, and I'm browsing the web, and I come across photos of that model wearing the crossfade LPs that Val gave her. So it wasn't like just a couple of photos. We're talking a full-on professional photo shoot featuring her and the V-Moda crossfade LPs that he gave her. So what turned out, what was just a nice gesture, this to give her these headphones as we're leaving the meet, turned into a full-blown photo shoot centered around the headphones and that model. So it was a cool gesture that blew up into an awesome guerrilla marketing move. So anyways, I just thought I'd share that with you. Electronics giant Sony had a really nice exhibit at the Tokyo Headphone Festival. It was really cool to see Sony there. And like Fostex did, they had really long lines at times to hear some of the Sony products. Now, the Sony products most people seem to be lining up for was the new BA line, the new balanced armature line of universal fit in-ear monitors. I think these are the very first balanced armature universal fit in-ear monitors ever from Sony. So a lot of people were curious about those. I got to hear them briefly, but not nearly long enough to form an impression. But I do expect to be able to hear some of those models soon, and we'll say more about them in the future. But people were coming away impressed with a couple of the models, and there were some impressions posted in the thread about the Meet impressions thread from the Tokyo Headphone Festival on Head-Fi, which we'll have a link to in the description accompanying this video. For me, the highlight of the Sony exhibit was actually meeting Naotaka Tsunoda, who's one of the top engineers for the personal entertainment division at Sony. He likes to go by the nickname Nao, N-A-O, and meeting Nao was an honor. He has a long history with the company, and that is a company that for me is it's one I hold dear to my heart, because Sony is really the company that got me started in high-end personal audio and got me started on this whole Head-Fi quest. And it was just great to talk to him about research and development, about some of the design philosophies that he has with respect to the products, and to have him help me personally demo the products was so cool. So now it was a thrill to meet you, and I hope we can keep in touch going forward. The ALO Audio and Cipher Labs exhibit was also a really busy stop. They were almost always crowded every time I looked. It probably didn't hurt that they had a couple of Audeze LCD3s present. Nobody else did, and a lot of people were curious about the Audeze LCD3. Another thing that was getting a lot of attention and a lot of comments was the ALO Audio RX Mark III prototype headphone amplifier there, the fully balanced headphone amp. It sounded fantastic. They also had the ALO Audio Continental. Now, I've been playing with the Continental. I've been using the ALO Audio RX Mark III, one of their prototypes. I don't have it right now. And that's an exciting amp. I can see why everybody was thrilled with it. I don't think I saw a person listening to it that wasn't smiling. So ALO Audio was getting some positive press and some positive attention at the Tokyo Headphone Festival, and it was great to see Ken and JD there. Stax's lineup of electrostatic headphones was also a big draw at the Tokyo Headphone Festival. It wasn't unusual to see it backed up to listen to, well, mostly the Stax SR009, their flagship electrostatic headphone that is, in my opinion, still the best sounding headphone of any type I've ever heard. So I think a lot of people agree with me based on the responses I saw on the faces of people after they listened to the SR009. It was really cool to finally meet somebody from Stax Japan for the first time. But that was an exciting exhibit just because it was just electrostatic heaven. If you're in electrostatic headphones, it's hard to beat a Stax exhibit at the Tokyo Headphone Festival. In a previous episode of Head-Fi TV, I reviewed a product called the Take-T H2 Plus. It was a headphone that used Heil-type polymer piezoelectric drivers, if I recall correctly. And I love the H2 Plus. It's a very strange, unique headphone, but it sounds beautiful. When I do some equalization to it, I can get it to sound like no other headphone. Has a very unique voice and style, if you've seen it. So anyways, I had a chance to finally meet the man behind the Take-T H2 Plus, the legendary Take. And we had a chance to talk about the H2 Plus, about audio in general. You're looking right now at a photo of Drew Baird from Moon Audio wearing the H2 Plus. Like I said, it's a unique headphone. And he liked it too, so he was impressed too. A unique headphone, if you ever get a chance to listen to it, or if you ever attend a meet at my office, you can listen to it. It was cool to meet the man, the genius, behind the Take-T H2 Plus. Another exhibit drawing crowds at the Tokyo Headphone Festival was Audio-Technica's. So on Head-Fi, you know that Audio-Technica is a popular brand with headfiers. But in Tokyo, it really is a popular brand, period, at large. You can walk around Tokyo and see Audio-Technica earphones and over-ears on people rather regularly as you walk around. I'm one of those guys that's peeking at everybody's headphones and what they're wearing, and I saw Audio-Technica a lot. So it's a popular premium brand in Japan, even much more so than it is in our community at Head-Fi on the website. So their exhibit, as you can imagine, was a popular stop. And they were showing their new limited edition 3000 ANV. Okay, unbelievably, it was one of the headphones I really wanted to hear, and I didn't hear it. And yeah, I feel pretty bad about that. But I really will get a chance to hear it at some point because one of my local Head-Fi buddies has one, and he wants to hear the Fostex TH900s. I want to hear the 3000 ANVs, and so I'll let you know what I think about it once I have a chance to listen to it finally. But the Audio-Technica exhibit was awesome, busy, vibrant, and it was nice to see them there and to meet people from Audio-Technica. Earlier I mentioned that we stopped at GEM, a place called GEM, and I met Hiroko Kuroki there. I wanted just to bring that up again because Hiroko Kuroki also runs Time Lord. It's one of the premier distributors of audio gear, import-exporters of audio gear in Japan. And I just wanted to point out something that they brought to the Tokyo Headphone Festival that I've never seen before. So it's kind of loud at these meet environments. So what they brought was isolation booths made out of what looked like a really thick corrugated cardboard. And they were cool looking, and they worked quite well. So I don't know where they found them. I'm going to have to get in touch with Kuroki-san and find out where she got these cardboard isolation booths. I just needed to show you a photo of these that M. Kubota 1 took because they were just so cool. In over 10 years at Head-Fi, you know, I kind of get to the point where I thought maybe I'd seen and heard all there was to see and hear with respect to high-end headphone audio. And the Tokyo Headphone Festival just showed me how wrong I was. There's still so much to see and hear. There are even brands out there in high-end headphone audio I hadn't even heard of, brands I wasn't at all familiar with, and that were impressive. So, for example, Drew Baird from Moon Audio and I were walking around doing some demos, and we were impressed by a company's amps. I think the company was called McAudie. I think that's how it's pronounced. They had some impressive amps. There was another company called Bakun Products. Again, I think that's how it's pronounced. And they had some impressive amps. I mean, and I'd never even heard of these companies. But there were others like that throughout the Tokyo Headphone Festival. It was a very special event for me. It was, again, probably one of my favorite, if not my very favorite, headphone audio type events I've ever been to. It was really amazing. And of course, the city of Tokyo, again, was awesome. Probably, no, let me say it. It is easily one of my favorite places in the world now. And I will go back to Tokyo as much as I can. Again, it was like Head-Fi, but in real life. It was everything we talk about at Head-Fi in real life. And that was a very special thing. And everybody was so nice and kind and welcoming. And it was a great trip. So that's the Tokyo Headphone Festival. I hope you enjoyed our coverage of it. And we'll see you next time.